is they're saying that, look, we can cool your servers. I mean, where can you get this kind of electricity rate?
Unbelievable. I guess there's always a positive out of a negative situation. On the other hand, you have to consider that Greenland up until now has been some pristine land, right? Untouched by human hands, so to speak. And now we're going to carve it all up, put industries out there, dig it up, create server farms. I don't know, we'll be losing something in that respect as well, right?
Alcoa says they're going to start a smelter up there. So industry is coming. So it's not all bad.
It's not all bad, but I tell you one situation that's going to not help is carbon emissions. All of these new industries, they all contribute to the carbon emissions. There is a whole industry unto itself that is beginning to emerge out of this carbon trading. Now, what this is these are companies that pollute the environment. They're allowed a certain cap of pollution, but if they exceed that cap, they have to pay fines and penalties. But there is something called purchasing carbon credits. So a company can sell a carbon credit if they're not polluting the environment as much, and another company can buy that carbon credit. So there's a trading that's established between these two things. I was amazed to hear this. By 2020, this carbon trading market will be $1 trillion in size. I mean, it's huge and it's growing. Not just that, but you're going to see companies like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs start to jump into this market as an investment firm. Why? What they're doing is they're investing in these companies that go in and purchase these carbon credits and then reinvest the money in green technology, reforestation, cleaning up the air, reducing greenhouse gases. So they believe that all these carbon trading, when it happens, there will be new industries spawned to help create better environments and greener technologies. And they're investing those dollars back in. Long story short, banks are entering the game of carbon trading.
Of course. It's just a paper shuffle. There's not much in it.
There isn't. But isn't this amazing to me that we can just create an industry out of pollution that is valued at $1 trillion? That, to me, is just amazing.
Moving on, folks, this is a very interesting story from China. You know, in China, it's the women who receive dowry for getting married. Why? Because there are 32 million more males in China than there are females. So you would think that's very nice for women, right? Well, women have understood this is a beautiful territory to exploit. So there are bands of women going around. There's actually gangs of women that go around and get married to these Chinese in villages. And after being with them for a month or two, and then they take off. They take the dowry money and gold jewelry or whatever they have, and they leave their men.
Oh, these poor men. Left behind by these rogue women.
I know that in India they are blaming men that they're leaving the women and taking the dowry.
Well, it just goes to show you the dowry works both ways, right? For men and for women.
So the best thing is, like what India says, do not give dowry, do not accept dowry. But in an area where there is no supply or low supply and high demand, these things are bound to happen.
I don't even know where to begin to respond to this story, because in one sense you can say, it's what do you expect? When you've got a dowry system in place, either side will expect to profit, and women are not beyond profiting where they have the opportunity to profit, right? So,
that's right.
So here we go. Even in places like China, where you've got to think that women are still somewhat not considered quite as equal as men. I mean, there's
I want to bring your attention to the story in Washington Post. Here's a woman writing to Kiplinger. My husband and I are splitting up after 15 years of marriage with no children. We started out with nothing, but due to my success in the business, we accumulated several $1 million worth of assets. He worked at home all those years, doing freelance writing and managing our household. Now he says he's entitled to half of everything, even though I, the woman, earned all of it myself. Is this fair?
Of course it's fair. I mean, she's a woman, she's earning, she's effectively acting in the place of a man in a classic sense, and if her husband has contributed, in part, he deserves half. In fact, the laws even say so. Each spouse's role is deemed important to the material success of the couple. That enables homemaker wives to receive, in divorce, half of the wealth earned by their executive husbands. That's in the traditional case. Well, he or she's the executive, and he's managing the house. So why not?
But she
helped her get there.
She thought the home was not a company.
It doesn't matter who's wearing the pants and the shoes, so to speak, as long as you are contributing to the common economic goal of that household, and if that household breaks apart, then you have to split the assets. I think it's perfectly fair.
So it goes for women too. They have to cough up if they have the money.
Absolutely.
Because nowadays, there are more women who are making money.
If we're going to stand for equality, then we have to digest that bitter pill even when we're on the positive side of the situation, right?
Okay. You called it bitter pill, not me.
I'm sure it's bitter to this lady.
President Obama appointed Tim Romer, an ex-congressman from Indiana, as the ambassador to India. Now you will say, what are his qualifications? Folks, he's not a Foreign Service graduate. He does not have a Foreign Service in his resume at all. What he does have is, you remember NAFTA? At that time, he was one person who objected strongly that NAFTA not be created because so many jobs, so many businesses will leave Indiana, which happened to be true. So that's the background under which he's going to India. So I really think it is going to get interesting when he's up there and trying to explain to them why they can't be sending people to America under H-1B and all of those other visas.
This is a tough one, because as an Indian, you certainly feel that you're not being fair in the process, or that the process has become so hard that it's difficult to make it through. On the other hand, look at the unemployment rate of the United States. It's high. And it's the highest it's been in 25 years. So you can't say that the measures being taken now aren't a good thing for the country, even though for an immigrant community like ourselves, it's not a good thing, because it's just harder now to become a citizen of the United States.
But when you look at President Obama's speech up in Cairo, I felt the same thing. It was the best speech, by the way. But I felt that what he's trying to tell everybody, America is not going to interfere in your affairs. We're going to back off here. So you guys have to understand that if you don't govern your people by their will, it's your problem. America is taking its hands off. Comparing it, I feel the same thing. Tim Romer is going to be spreading that message. But for the sake of India, I'm happy that they're getting an opportunity from one of the toughest people, the one who almost stopped NAFTA from happening, to be in India to see firsthand whether it's good for America or not good for America.
So you think over time Tim Romer is going to change his opinion of Indians and their ability to affect the United States positively?
I hope so. I hope for everyone, because I really think everybody talking about global business, there's got to be something to it. Even though in the short run of my lifetime, I look at it and I say, oh my God, this is devastating. But let's see what happens.
Going back to the President's Mideast visit for a minute, here is a story out of the Washington Post that just tells you the sign of our times. It was kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, the person that wrote it was obviously watching for these things. Did you notice that when the President was speaking with King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, the King gave him he bestowed